Travis Scott has finally broken his legal silence following the tragedy that took place at Astroworld, but it was not the response that many were hoping for. Scott has gone into full denial mode, and he's not alone. Live Nation is also trying to deny the allegations against them as well. On Monday, Travis Scott was referred to by his real name, Jacques B. Webster II. So fancy. And on that day, he also responded to 11 lawsuits that put him as the main defendant regarding his concert in Houston that resulted in 10 people losing their lives. People magazine, along with a few other news outlets, were able to actually get a hand on 6 of the 11 responses filed, and they said that all of them were nearly identical. Within the filings, Travis and his company have generally denied the allegations made in the lawsuits and then added that they respectfully request that the claims against these defendants be dismissed with prejudice, and that these defendants be granted such other and further relief both at law and in equity to which they are entitled. His company that I'm referring to is Cactus Jack Records, which is being represented by law firms O'Melveny and Myers, as well as Yetter, Coleman, and Tribble, in more than 200 lawsuits that have Travis as the defendant. Rolling Stone was also reporting that Live Nation and its subsidiary Score More have also denied the allegations, as well as the Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation that owns Energy Park where the festival took place. But despite denying allegations, they did not file for their dismissal like Travis tried to do. Live Nation has been particularly scrutinized because of how big they are when it comes to producing live events. Live Nation is one of the largest show promoters in the world, so if they don't get held accountable for this, it could set an awful precedent. We saw many videos from that evening, but one in particular was especially disturbing. There was a video of a young woman who climbed up onto the side of the stage and was desperately trying to tell the cameraman to stop the show. She repeatedly said that people were losing their life in the crowd, and all he did was swat her away as he continued to record Travis Scott's performance. Despite chants coming from the crowd of people wanting to stop the show, Travis carried on for another 40 minutes before the show was finally shut down, and within that time frame, he and Drake are said to have actually amped up the chaos that was already overwhelming the crowd. After learning about what happened hours later, Kylie Jenner quickly published a statement where she expressed her grief over the lives that were lost and then tried to make it clear that she and Travis had no idea of what was going on at the time. However, city officials are still investigating where the problem started in the crowd that soon turned to pandemonium. Houston police is also putting most of the blame on Travis, though, after footage emerged of Houston cops just casually filming the show during what they later called was a mass casualty event. At one point, he is even heard saying, "Who asked me to stop? You all know what you came here to do." And concertgoer Billy Nassar said that he became frustrated when the concert continued despite the obvious chaos that was happening on the ground. He went on to tell CNN, "I wanted the music to stop and I wanted everyone around me to realize what's going on, but people didn't have much self-awareness. Kids were just going crazy and partying for the festival, and they weren't actually paying attention to the bodies dropping behind them." In addition to making that video apologizing to fans for what happened, Travis also released this statement that says, "I'm absolutely devastated by what took place last night. My prayers go out to the families and all those impacted by what happened at Astroworld Festival. Houston PD has my total support as they continue to look into this tragic loss of life. I am committed to working together with the Houston community to heal and support the families in need. Thank you to Houston PD, Fire Department, and Energy Park for their immediate response and support. Love you all." Live Nation, who also hosted the event, put out a statement as well that said, "Heartbroken for those lost and impacted at Astroworld last night. We will continue working to provide as much information and assistance as possible to the local authorities as they investigate the situation." And according to an investigation that was done by the Houston Chronicle, though, they described how organizers were concerned prior to the event about adequate staffing and were worried about last-minute poorly trained hires that were made security guards. Billboard also reported that there is a potential for all of these lawsuits to be consolidated into one massive case. In a court document released by Billboard, it states, "Transfer of all of these lawsuits to a single pretrial judge for consolidated and coordinated pretrial proceedings will eliminate duplicative discovery, conserve resources of the judiciary, avoid conflicting legal rulings and scheduling, and otherwise promote the just and efficient conduct of all actions." This dismissal could also be Travis feeling a little salty about his offer to pay for funeral expenses being declined. If you recall, more than half of the victims' families turned down the offer and said through their attorneys that they would be continuing with legal action instead. Travis Scott has just been hit with another lawsuit from the family of a 14-year-old Astroworld victim. The family of John Hilger are devastated by the loss of their son, and so now they are wanting to hold Travis Scott accountable. According to a recent report, the family have filed a new lawsuit against Travis Scott, Live Nation, and other event organizers. The lawsuit filed in Houston made claims similar to the other lawsuits that we have told you about on this channel, mainly that Travis and the concert organizers failed to provide a safe environment for the fans in attendance. In addition to that, they also cited security failures, a lack of personnel, personnel, barriers, and emergency medical staff. In a statement to the press, John's father Chris said, "The pain of our loss from our son John not making it home alive from an event such as this is intolerable. He was a beautiful young man who simply wanted to enjoy his first concert event with friends, whom he treasured spending time with more than anything. If this lawsuit prevents even one family from having to go through the extreme pain and anguish that we have endured, then it is the least we can do to honor John's memory." The lawsuit was filed by attorney Richard Mithoff, and according to the suit, they are seeking $1 million in damages. The sad thing is that this new lawsuit is just one of the many that have been filed against Travis Scott and Live Nation. I mean, one filing is seeking $2 billion in damages, and another is asking for $750 million in damages. Plus, within just that one, there are hundreds of alleged victims, whether it involves physical injuries or mental. 14-year-old John Hilgert was one of the 10 that lost their life at Astroworld, and with these lawsuits mounting up, authorities are under a lot of pressure to figure out what exactly happened here and who is to blame for all of this. A source close to Travis has repeatedly told the media that Scott had no idea the extent of what was going on in the crowd while he was performing. Plus, like we've told you before, with how medics were being split up during the show, there was an obvious breakdown in communication at some point. Plus, there was that weird video of the Houston police just casually filming the show right when they had previously declared that time frame to be when the mass casualty event took place. Apple Music also takes on some of the blame because of the way that the barriers were set up for the show. It was more to do with getting a good shot than the safety of the crowd. The crazy thing in this scenario is that everyone is pointing fingers. I mean, for a bunch of people that just put on a festival and work together, no one wants to be solely to blame here. Travis Scott's attorney went on the defensive pretty early and said, "It was reported that the operations plan designated that only the festival director and executive producers have authority to stop the show, neither of which is part of Travis's crew. This also runs afoul of HPD's own previous actions when it shut down the power and sound at this very festival when the performance ran over 5 minutes back in 2019. Live Nation seems to not be pointing any fingers here and then just giving reassurance that they will be continuing to assist authorities. In an earlier statement, the company said they will continue to support and assist local authorities in their ongoing investigation so that both the fans who attended and their families can get the answers they want and deserve, and we will address all legal matters at the appropriate time. And hopefully the families of the victims can get these answers soon." Well, it looks like we have some more bad news for Travis Scott today. After it was announced that he will be facing a $750 million lawsuit, I honestly don't know how he's going to recover from this. This massive $750 million lawsuit was brought forth by more than 125 fans and includes the family of one concert goer who lost their life at the festival. Within the lawsuit, various people are mentioned though. We have Travis Scott, Drake, Apple, and Live Nation all becoming the targets of this lawsuit. The suit was filed by a Houston attorney named Tony Busby and is just the first of the many legal troubles that are headed Travis Scott's way. This suit places the blame of what happened during Astroworld on Travis and concert organizers who are being accused of negligence and failing to properly plan for this concert, train security, and overall host a safe event. This seems like a lot of money, but this $750 million will be used to cover both physical and mental health injuries as well as the loss of life. Attorney Busby spoke with the press about this big new lawsuit and said, "No amount of money will ever make these plaintiffs whole. No amount of money can restore human life, but the damages sought in this case attempts to fix, help, or make up for the harms and losses suffered by these plaintiffs. Nothing more and nothing less." Now, almost immediately following the event, it was also reported that Travis and Live Nation offered refunds to concert goers, but the lawsuit suggested that this was a transparent and grotesque effort of the defendants to limit their liability after the fact. If you've been watching our updates, then you'll know that 10 people now have lost their lives as a result of the Astroworld tragedy, with the most recent victim being a 9-year-old boy. Law enforcement is still continuing their investigation into what exactly caused this mass casualty event, but many attendees claim that after a crowd surged to the front, people became trapped against barriers and on the ground. Travis Scott is still maintaining his defense that he did not understand the severity of the situation while he was performing. Not to mention, there were also several Houston police officers that were spotted near the front of the stage just calmly taking photos and videos of the performance right when the chaos started to happen. As I mentioned earlier, within this $750 million lawsuit are the details of what happened to concert goer 21-year-old Axel Acosta, who lost his life at the show. In a statement to the press, a member of Tony Busby's legal team said that Acosta's loss of life was needless and was the result of gross negligence. The attorney then alleges that Acosta had gone into cardiac arrest after being crushed by the crowd. They go on to say, "When Axel collapsed, he was trampled by those fighting to prevent themselves from being crushed. As he lay there under a mass of humanity dying, the music played and streamed on for almost 40 minutes. The complaint then goes on to add, "Axel Acosta loved and adored Travis Scott and the other performers at Astroworld. The feeling was not mutual. Certainly neither Travis Scott nor his exclusive partners, streaming service, record labels, handlers, entourage, managers, agents, hangers-on, promoters, promoters, organizers, or sponsors cared enough about Axel Acosta and the other concert goers to make an even minimal effort to keep them safe. The real target of this lawsuit, though, are the people who stood to make a profit from Astroworld, which means Apple Music, Epic Records, and many other corporations are also going to be sharing the legal blame in a court of law. In addition to this massive lawsuit, there have also been 36 other lawsuits that have been filed against Travis Scott and the concert organizers. If you recall, we recently did a video about how Travis Scott was facing $750 million in lawsuits for Astroworld. Believe it or not, but now that number has now been added to a whopping $2 billion lawsuit. Yes, billion with a capital B. A Texas-based attorney has now filed a $2 billion lawsuit against Travis Scott, Live Nation, and other people that were involved in this tragedy. Attorney Thomas J. Henry filed the lawsuit, and the list of the defendants may be long, but the people that he was hired to represent is longer. The defendants listed in this suit include Travis Scott, Drake, Apple Music, and NRG Stadium, but on the other side, he is representing 282 Astroworld concert goers. In a statement to the press regarding this massive lawsuit, Henry said, "The defendants stood to make an exorbitant amount of money off of this event, and they still chose to cut corners, cut costs, and put attendees at risk." Adding, "My clients want to ensure the defendants are held responsible for their actions, and they want to send the message to all performers, event organizers, and promoters that what happened at Astroworld cannot happen again." Ever since filing this massive lawsuit, this attorney claims that an additional 120 people have reached out to him looking for representation in this case. After filing, Thomas did an interview with Hollywood Life and went into detail about some of the injuries that his clients are facing. His clients are understandably traumatized from having to step over the bodies of people that lost their lives during this festival, and then he adds, "They didn't have a choice because there was nowhere to move. These people were trapped. They couldn't breathe. They couldn't get out." This lawsuit also sheds some light on Apple Music's disastrous role in this festival. Henry alleges that Apple's obtaining of the festival's online streaming rights played a critical role in the crowd control disaster. The lawsuit goes on to say, "Early reports from the investigation of the Astroworld catastrophe indicate that the premises were arranged in a fashion that best served Apple's online streaming of the concert at the detriment to concert goer safety." However, Apple Music has yet to release any statement in regards to these allegations. Travis Scott is making sure to act fast though, and announced soon after that he would be paying for the funeral costs of the victims at Astroworld. However, with a $2 billion lawsuit on the table, I don't know how much of that he will personally have to fork up. He might not have the money to help pay for these funeral expenses. Live Nation and another promoter called Score More also released a statement on how they will be handling the next steps. On Twitter they said, "We wanted to provide an update on the steps that Score More, Live Nation, and the Astroworld Fest team have been taking. Throughout the weekend, we have been working to provide local authorities with everything they need from us in order to complete their investigation and get everyone the answers they are looking for. Our staff has met with local authorities to provide information, and we have also provided them with all footage from our CCTV cameras. Loadout of the site and equipment is currently paused to give investigators the time they requested to walk and document the grounds. Full refunds are being offered for all those who purchased tickets, and most importantly, we are working on ways to support attendees, the families of victims, and staff, from providing mental health counseling to setting up a health fund to help with costs for medical expenses. Our entire team is mourning alongside the community." Also, just so we're clear, this $2 billion lawsuit is on top of the other $750 million that attorney Tony Busby is seeking for 125 other people that were also affected by this tragedy. We also had a statement from the CEO of Paradox, which was the medical company hired by Astroworld for the event. While speaking with CNN, the CEO, Alex Pollock, said, "This is something I'll have nightmares about for the rest of my life. The team is extremely broken up about it. Seeing so many young people getting CPR at one time is just something no one should have to go through. Even though we're medical professionals, we should be used to it. You can't get used to something like that." This was truly an impossible feat though. To have 11 people go into cardiac arrest at the same time would definitely give anyone nightmares, especially if it's your job to help them. I mean, who do you even choose to start with? Then on top of that, they said that the other concert goers did not make their job easy. Alex goes on to add, "We were doing CPR on the back of carts trying to get out of that crowd. People were jumping on top of the carts, they were pulling us off of people. They thought it was a joke." I could not even imagine what those working conditions must have felt like, and hopefully people are actually held accountable for this disaster.